I built my first funnel in 2001. It was like crazy. And it took me 9 months to basically go from being homeless, sleeping on a couch in a mobile home. I was living in Clayton, North Carolina. I tell them, man, there's basically two types of women. There's mother types and mistress types. And you got to know what you want. There's nothing wrong with either one, but biggest mistake a man with money can do, men marry mistresses. My grandma was super intellectual. Like before she died at 102, she wrote a paper on diminutives in different languages. And that's like Russians. Russians don't have articles, so it drives me nuts with my Russian friends. I'm like, bro, you've been in fucking America for 20 years. You got to know the word the. It was like get in caught.
Yeah.
I'm like, that sounds so bad. Just say the.
Here in my garage.
Good. All right. Well, I'll let you rock and roll. Is this your first podcast?
Pretty much. I mean, I've done some other ones and everything like that, but it's like go hard or go home.
Yeah.
So
ask me some stuff and we'll go from there. We'll riff.
yeah, well, so kind of crazy, man. Little background, the way I got here.
Yeah.
5-6 years ago, I was working as a detailer on a gravel lot in the middle of nowhere, South Dakota. I was working for a guy. He sold cars to dealerships. And it was like semi trucks out there, no traffic, right?
Yeah.
And I started learning about this little known thing called Facebook ads.
Yeah.
And I started going down the rabbit hole, but didn't have anything solid. But I would just spend 8 hours a day while I'm cleaning cars, just YouTube. It was my mom. I'd find one guy I liked and just go through his whole channel.
Yeah.
And that was like 8 months of just stoking that up.
Yeah.
One day I was walking from the gravel lot over to the other kind of nicer offices, and I saw this ad.
Yeah.
And it's this guy, here my Lamborghini guy.
There you go.
You know, and I had known you from YouTube ads.
Okay.
Because, like, yeah, I was trying to, jam out to my music in the shower, and then this guy, hey, here in my garage is my Lamborghini. 40 minutes later, I'm like, I didn't know anything about YouTube ads, how it worked, how you were targeting the entire world then. But it was kind of a seed.
Yeah.
And then here later on, when I'm working as a detailer, I see your ad come across, and you were walking with a guy, I think his name's Jordan.
Okay.
Black gentleman with a girl, walking down nighttime.
Oh, it was Chin. That was in London. It's a guy named Chin. Yeah.
In London, yeah. And you're like, so what are you doing with your social media marketing agency per month? And he's like, I'm doing about 40 grand.
Yeah.
And I was like, $40,000. I don't even know if my parents ever made $40,000 in a year.
Yeah.
And this guy's doing that in a month. And so it was like a rerun course. It was like $27. And I remember I had less than $1,000 in my bank account. I was paycheck to paycheck. I had rent. It was like $700, whatever. And I was like $27. I remember thinking about it. Thinking about $27. Imagine that, like not sure if $27 is a reasonable investment. I got the course. I studied it front to back 3 times, watched it all the way through.
Yeah.
Watched it again. And it just taught me like enough to understand lifetime value.
Yeah.
If you can produce, revenue for somebody, then they'll pay you out of the excess revenue. You don't actually have to charge for your services.
Yeah.
And so I just started going to everybody I knew. Hey, let me try to do some ads for you, websites. I was doing blogs, like writing them myself, like everything.
Yeah.
And then it started to stick. Man, I Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, and that's like my big passion.
Yeah.
And it's kind of what saved my life, and we'll get into that.
Okay.
But like I was training at the gym, and I said, hey, professor, I see you're launching this kids program. Let me run some ads for it. And so I did lead gen ads. I got the leads in, texted them, emailed them, called them all myself. Before I knew it, he had like 5-6 students coming in from every night from me. The car dealership, same thing. We're on a gravel lot. I put $100 into Facebook ads. I got my first 12 leads, worked them. I didn't even know how to sell cars. I got strangers in the door buying cars from me. My boss was like, wait, how did you get these people here? You don't know these people? And they're filling out credit apps with you and you're selling them cars? He passed me a $3,900 commission check at once at that time. And dude, $27 course, $100 in Facebook ads to a $3,900 check.
Yeah.
Like, I watched my parents struggle all through growing up.
Yeah.
And it was in that moment I was like, I just printed money.
Yeah.
And that was like the start of it all.
Yeah.
Probably 5-6 years ago. And since then we've went on to do a couple $1 million in revenue. I work with some of the biggest now coaches, influencers.
Yep.
Show You Roll?
Okay.
The brand?
Yeah.
I do all their advertising, paid ads.
Nice.
They're getting like
So
50
SMMA worked for you. I tell people, it's like, even to this day, I'm now on SMMA 9.0. So you probably got in 2.0.
2.0. Yep.
That was like 2017, 2018, and 9.0. I tell people, but the way to get a foot in the door right now is go to businesses, say you should have an email newsletter, you should send it daily or at least 3 times a week. I'll do it all for you. I don't even charge that much money. I'll write it. I'll manage your email list. And you can go in and have ChatGPT write 80% of it. You just got to customize it a little bit. You can handle 20 clients, paying you. You only charge them. It's a good deal for the business because you charge them, let's say, $1,000 a month, and it's a good deal for you because with AI now, it's like back in SMMA 1.0, you had to do the work yourself. 20 clients was a lot of work. You'd have to hire some assistants. Now AI is just like changing the game, and I'm going, it's even better. People still ask me like, does SMMA work? I'm like, yes. You just got to tweak with the game, you know. So yeah, it's like I tell people in that first Here in My Garage video, like the more you learn, the more you earn, and that's the crazy thing. Especially now we live in a knowledge economy. So that started. I mean, Peter Drucker was saying that in 1960. Sorry. So it's 60 years ago. A man named, Peter Drucker is probably the best known business guy. He said, the more we are now in the knowledge society. And so people go, what does that mean? I'm like, well, the more knowledge you have, your income can go up disproportionately. So like if you work in construction, like I used to work on Amish would go on construction crews, and I would go on that. You get paid there exactly linearly. You got paid by the hour, whatever it was. $10 an hour I got paid. So you want to make $100, you have to work exactly 10 hours. But with knowledge work, it's like you're getting paid for the result. So you can, like you said, you can go to somebody, once you have a better resume in it with the SMMA, you can go to somebody else and say, hey, I got something even better for you. Pay me less up front. Pay me $500 up front.
Yeah.
And I'll track the revenue from the email newsletter I do to you. And, give me 10% of that.
Yeah.
And so it's like asking for 10% of what you generate. And if they ever complain, you're like, dude, for every $100 new you wouldn't have made, I'm asking for 10, you get 90. And then you can end up making $3,000 a client. And you get 20 clients like that, and I'm making 50, 60 grand. And it's like, when was the first month that you made more than 20 grand? How long ago? In a month.
It was like 4 months in. Where I did. Yeah, because it was 2020.
Yes.
Everybody shut down. All of the local businesses needed to go online. We were doing lead gen.
Yep.
So it was like, I was like, I'll get you names, emails, numbers, and I'll put them into a CRM and it'll automatically text them.
Yeah.
And we did 20K our first 4 months in business. And then it was like 20K to 30K for about a year. And then we shot up past 50.
Yep.
Last month, we did 90 Gs.
Yeah.
So
let me ask you this. What's the first thing you did when you're starting to make money? I should ask your girlfriend. What did he do? What did he do for you?
Yeah.
Did he take you on any nice trips?
Yeah.
You here in Beverly Hills. Well, like, seriously, I remember the first time I started making money, I built my first funnel in 2001. Yeah. It was like crazy. And it took me 9 months to basically go from being homeless, sleeping on a couch in a mobile home. I was living in Clayton, North Carolina, to being able to have my own car, living in a house in Raleigh instead of in the middle of nowhere. I had some roommates to save money, but I was making like $8 grand, which in today's dollars is about 15 grand a month.
Easily.
And the first thing I did, I was dating this girl, Shara. And I used to be like a salsa dancer, professional salsa dancer. I used to teach, and she was too. And she goes, we should go to the Puerto Rico World Salsa competition. It's called a Congress. And I go, my impulse growing up poor, that's why you got to rewire your brain. My impulse was just to be like, no. Because anytime I was growing up, like my stepdad he worked at the post office delivering mail. My mom, before that, was a single mom. They had to say no to everything. So my impulse was like, nah. I was like, I wish. And then I remember thinking, I'm making a little money now. And I looked online, like Expedia, and a ticket from Raleigh to Puerto Rico was, I don't know, $300. And I was like, wait, yeah, I called her back. I was like, Shara, I can go. And then I called her back like a day later, and she's like, oh, I found out. I remember her friend. She had this friend named Amanda. And she's like, oh, Amanda actually now is coming to stay with me, so I don't think I can go to Puerto Rico. And I was like, wait a second. I could buy 3 tickets for $900. And then I was so excited. I called my dad. In my life, I've only ever gone on one trip with my dad. I didn't grow up with my dad. He went to prison when I was born. But I called my dad, and I go, he used to live in Puerto Rico. I go, and he lived in LA, Long Beach. I said, Dad, you want to go to Puerto Rico? And he's like, I don't have the money. And I was like, I'll buy you a ticket.
Wow.
And I flew. So 4 of us went to Puerto Rico. And that's what I tell people. There's a mindset thing that has to happen too. Because you can start making money and not realize that everything's changed. So was there an epiphany for you? Can you think of any one time where you're like, I got money now? Like I said, it wasn't that much, but I was like, I can take her. I can take her friend Amanda. I could take my dad. I became like, it's like Daddy Warbucks. I was like, I got big money now. I got 15 grand. Well, what was your moment?
2 things. Dinners. I started getting appetizers and desserts.
There you go. Yeah, you're like, I got money.
We were ordering we were looking at the prices to decide what we were hungry for.
Yeah.
You know? And now it was like, I would go to the most expensive thing and get that out of like spite for being broke, you know? And so that was kind of like just
that's a good one.
That was a balling thing. I thought I was balling.
Yeah.
But then really what I started doing is just booking jiu-jitsu tournaments.
Okay.
Because that's what
How long
really...
have you been doing jiu-jitsu?
7 years.
Okay.
Yeah, so, and I told him before this, I told Camila, I was like, they just told Tai, hey, you got a guy outside, he loves jiu-jitsu, he loves you, would you talk to him? You know, no, we're here.
No, I've been doing jiu-jitsu on and off since like 2002.
Yeah.
But I've done different things like Muay Thai more, but since about 2014, and I'm not going at it hardcore, so I try to do it once a week, you know, just for conditioning, skill stuff. What school you go to?
Yeah, I'm under Autos. So Andre Galvao.
Yeah.
One of his like prodigies, Michael Liera Jr.
Yeah.
Multiple-time world champion.
He's in Denver.
Okay. Started an academy out there.
Yeah.
Came up to South Dakota, taught a free seminar.
Yep.
And you know, like really, I guess kind of to jump back to the backstory of like where like the competition edge comes from. Well, you know what it's like growing up without money.
Yeah.
And like I'd love to know more about, you know, like what you went through with your dad being, you know, in jail and like everything that you've been through. And I feel like I can relate to a lot of that different stuff. And it was like bad influences were all around me.
Yeah.
And I wanted to be the cool guy. So I start, you know, partying and
Was this in South Dakota?
In South Dakota.
Yeah.
And so I start getting good at networking. Oh, I know him. Oh, $50, $100. I start middlemanning all this different stuff.
Yeah.
And realized like, oh, I can go down to Denver. I can get a guy driving down 3 times a week. I got into some serious stuff way over my head.
Yeah.
Super lucky that I didn't get in trouble deeply.
Yeah.
A couple close calls.
Don't say too much on camera.
Yeah.
Sometimes I tell people, be careful what you say on camera.
Yeah.
It's good to be like, I got into some stuff.
Yeah.
My dad went to prison, and my dad's from Harlem, New York. And looking back, I see a lot of like gangster guys on YouTube and stuff. My dad's a real OG. You know, he went to prison. He went to Terminal Island. He's got stab wounds. He was blind in one eye and he's from Harlem, and he grew up in the crazy times.
Wow.
My dad didn't talk about nothing. So I'm always suspicious when I see people like on YouTube and like, oh, here's my crimes. My dad would be like, this dumb motherfucker. He's like, don't talk.
Sure.
He's like, they don't talk. My dad would be like, if you don't say anything, it's hard to prove.
Yeah.
But if you talk, especially now, he would be surprised now, because now people are on, he's talking about before cameras, before YouTube don't talk.
Yeah.
Now there's people going out there and just talking about their whole, I'm like, this ain't going to end well. But anyway, I'm glad don't tell too much without a lawyer present.
Of course. Allegedly.
Yeah.
But there was a close call that I do feel comfortable talking about that was crazy.
Yeah.
Dude tried to rob me at gunpoint.
Yeah.
You know, and we're in South Dakota.
Well, you talk about that because that's his crime, not yours.
Yeah, exactly.
So you can talk about other people doing
exactly. And
so what'd you do in the mode? Had you done jiu-jitsu then?
Well, I hadn't done jiu-jitsu then, but I had I'm from South Dakota, like we're cowboys.
Yeah.
So I had a weapon too.
Yeah.
And I pulled it, drawed it, and put it in a place where I was a finger squeeze away from ending a man's life.
Yeah.
At like 17 years old.
Yep.
Under 18. So, you know, it's off the record anyway. But like that
Does
moment.
South Dakota have stand your ground laws?
Yeah.
Probably South Dakota is like, that's the Wild West.
But in like a
Where's
exchange,
Tombstone from? Like Deadwood.
that's in South Dakota.
That's South Dakota.
Spearfish area, like
Yeah.
over there. Yeah, exactly.
You ever watch
Spearfish.
Deadwood, that show?
Yeah.
That's the best show.
My dad's so good.
Everybody was shooting everybody, man. People
Yeah.
go, why does America have so much shootings? I'm like, well, there's a lot of reasons, but it's not new. U.S. has had a lot of shootings. The people who liked guns and liked to be left alone moved to America. That set of genetics is all through Texas and stuff like that, you know. So
Yeah.
so how'd you get out of it?
It was just
walk
like
away?
that flash of a moment, you know, and other circumstances, whatever happening. And I was just like, dude, I got to get away.
Yeah.
So me and this girl I was hanging out with, we were like, yo, we got to like physically leave these people. And so I moved out, packed all my stuff in a car, moved 45 minutes to Spearfish, actually.
Okay.
Beautiful town in South Dakota. And I started working at an organic grocery store, like
Yeah.
clerking and stuff. And I was just like in the gym and I was getting so bored.
Yeah.
Guy at the front desk sees me hitting the punching bag terribly.
Yeah.
Worst punches you've ever seen. And the guy's like, hey, man, I'm actually a pro fighter.
Yeah.
You know, this is the jab. This is the cross. You got to plant your feet. And over time starts working with me, kind of like, you know, one of those things. And then I told him within the first week, I'm like, if you could find me a fight, I'll get in there. Like, I just wanted to prove to myself.
So you just started boxing or
Boxing, yeah, and doing some MMA.
Yeah.
He got me a fight. We
Okay.
trained super hard for 8 months. I'm doing MMA, and got out there in the fight, beat the guy down, like surprisingly.
Making money?
No, and risked my life for pure nothing.
Spearfish probably doesn't have big prizes.
It was like one of those moments where you ever just want to like, you want to test yourself, or maybe you got a chip on your shoulder, and I was just like, get me in the cage. I had no business being in there. The guy was like 10-0. You look him up, and it's like the first fight, he's just knocking a guy out savagely.
Yeah.
And I had already accepted the fight. I'm like, how can I get out of this? But I won the fight, and I met my Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Was it decision?
I submitted him.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he was like kicking my ass. He like hit me in the back of the head, boom, kicked me, spinning kick, boom. I'm like getting messed up. Both my hands are here. This is the beginning of the fight. I'm not looking good, you know? And then I threw a little teep kick, followed it up with a knee, broke 3 ribs. He starts kind of crumbling down, gets to the back, rear naked choke. And it was in that moment where I was like, okay, I don't want to do fighting, but I love this pursuit.
Right.
Met my Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu coach in the bathroom that night. He invited me to class.
Yeah.
Started training Jiu-Jitsu. And after a week, I was like, oh, this is where I'm meant to be.
How often you train?
5-6 days a week.
Oh, so you're full time.
Yeah. I'm ranked right now number 5th in the entire world in the IBJJF light featherweight division. Won a bunch of no-gi tournaments.
So you black belt now?
No, I'm a
Brown?
purple belt going on brown.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Super in the competition circuit.
Danaher used to be in Puerto Rico. I trained with him once.
Really?
Yeah.
Those guys are awesome.
Ryan on some of those. He's a phenom. Those 2 brothers. Yeah.
What do you find with training is like the most parallel to business and marketing and all that?
Well, like jiu-jitsu specifically is a lot of attention to detail, and people don't realize like wealth comes from something called conscientiousness, which is organization, diligence, perfectionism, and prudence. Like that's the science of the personality types that make the most money. So you look at a guy like Zuckerberg, Bezos, Rockefeller, Carnegie, Elon Musk, whoever you want to look at, these people were more detail-oriented than you think. And a lot of people think, oh, I'm just a big picture guy and I just suddenly going to make money. That's not how it works. It's like Steve Jobs was obsessed over the iPhone, every little part. And so like if you do jiu-jitsu, especially if you do with a gi, you know, people say you shouldn't do jiu-jitsu with a gi because it's not real life, but that's not the point. Like with a gi, a lot of precision things have to be done or it's easier to get tapped out. So I think jiu-jitsu teaches you that you can be stronger, but you can lose if you're sloppy.
For sure.
And a lot of people are sloppy, man. And
Or if you rush.
yeah, that's all part of sloppiness, you know, is going faster than you should. So yeah, I like boxing. Boxing is I think in boxing, you learn, you know, boxing is, people don't realize of all the sports you can do, it takes the longest to look good at boxing. You can box for 5 years and you watch yourself on camera and you're like, people just look bad.
Yeah.
When you see somebody like Mike Tyson shadow boxing And you see, I know Floyd Mayweather, you know, it's like ballet.
Yeah.
So to me, like boxing is like ballet meets fighting. Jiu Jitsu is more like a technical thing. Like technicians win, like the Gracie. I train with Rigan Machado, you know, the Brazilian, like the original family. And the guy, Elio Gracie, who taught Jiu Jitsu, was like a little guy, 130-pound guy, fighting with no weight classes. And so he's not going to be able to win on brute force. So he was a technical guy. It's like, okay, you're strong. I'm going to grab him, attack the ankle. I'm going to attack the wrist, things like that. So there's a lot of parallels beside, like all sports teach you to not give up and to push yourself and consistency. But boxing teaches you the ballet of life, and jiu-jitsu teaches you the perfectionism. My CEO the other day, we got to put some footage. He came out, I was training with Rigan, who's a coral belt. Okay, he's had his black belt since he was 18. He was the first person to get a black belt at 18. And one of my CEOs was like, I might be able to take Rigan. And I was like, you know what? I would bet $1 million I'll put in escrow, and you just have to bet $30,000. So if you win against Rigan, you get $1 million. If you lose, you only got to pay me $30,000. He almost took the bet. I was so excited. Oh yeah. I was like, this is free $30,000. I told Rigan, you can have the money. Then he's like, nah, maybe I shouldn't, because he is like 250 pounds. So then I got a guy who's a purple belt. Joe works for me, and it was smaller. Joe's only about 140 pounds, and Anton's like 185, and Anton's like, I said, I bet you can't even beat Joe. And he's like, oh, and he's like, what's the definition of beat? I'm like, you can't even, because he was saying, I can grab any jiu-jitsu guy and get him on the ground and hold him there. I'm so strong. So I said, you can't even get a guy 40 pounds smaller than you for 1 minute. And he's like, yeah. And so I said, okay, if you win, I'll give you 10,000. If you lose, you got to give Joe 3,000. It took 7 seconds for Joe to get out. I was like, and then I said, hey, Anton, I'm going to go against you. And I've been doing it even longer than Joe. And it was like, it didn't take long to tap him out.
He showed me
I showed a video, and I'm like, I'm going to put, you know what I saw? Yeah. I saw, you know, you're going to lose when somebody challenges you and then says to their friend, hey, are you filming this? When someone says that phrase, don't fight them.
Yeah.
Because and that's what I said to Anton. I was like, please, I was like, 2 cameras to film this. Yeah, Anton's strong, but people, it's just like making money. It's like you don't make the maximum amount of money by just waking up at 4 a.m. and working for 16 hours. You can't brute force everything. And that's the lesson of jiu-jitsu. That's also the lesson of boxing. Big, strong dudes don't understand. It's like what Conor McGregor said. It's like precision beats power. So you get a dude who knows how to throw haymakers. If a smaller guy clips you on the chin just right, the centrifugal force makes you, basically, it's like G forces, like being in a jet, knocks you out, whips your head real fast. So, you know, Anton learns like precision beats power, and also don't mess with people who want it on film. In general, don't fight people who want to bet a lot of money.
Yeah.
I've taken a lot of money because people go, why are you so cocky? I'm like, I only bet when I'm sure I'm going to win. In business, there was a guy arguing with me that Bitcoin would go to 0 before it would go to 10,000. That was an easy bet. I took that money. He stopped bet. He didn't bet. He bet me one other time, which was that Snapchat would go basically to 0 before it went to whatever 5 billion. Let me see what Snapchat's at. Hey Siri, what is the market cap of Snapchat? Yeah, 17. Let me see if this is right. Yeah, 17 bill. Back then it was at like 4. And he's like, I said, it's going to go up before it goes down. So after that, 2 times taking people's money, they stop betting against you.
So don't bet against you. I just saw something come out on Rogan with that. He was saying that they're tracking the cell phone activity of people at these rallies.
Oh no, now they're tied. It just tied up. Something must have happened last days. It's literally implied win probability for both of them is identical. I don't see that very often.
That's crazy.
So Trump must something. Maybe it's because she did that interview the other day and didn't do that well. But people was like, I said, watch where people put their money.
Yeah.
And you can tell everything. Watch where people put their money. Where people put, it's like the Bible said, where people's treasure is, there's where their heart is. You know, so you can tell the truth. Because a lot of people will tell you, oh, like, I could give you an example. People say to me, no, Tai, I want to become an entrepreneur. Then I'm like, okay, great. Let me look at your QuickBooks. Let me look at your bank account last month. Let me look at all transactions. Oh, okay. You say with your conscious mind and your mouth that you want to make money, but I look, 60% of your disposable income went to partying, food, clothes, eating out. 2% went to learning. We're in the knowledge society. The more you learn, the more you earn. So when I meet somebody that's doubling down and they're buying books, they're going to seminars, they're going to conferences, they got mentors or going to networking events. Of course, they're also working in silence too, but they're spending money towards their goal. You can tell everything. It's kind of like I grew up in kind of poor parts, depending on different times of my childhood. But when I lived in a part of San Diego, I didn't realize it was poor till now. It was also the meth capital of the world. There's a lot of meth there. And you look, people had no money, but they had not, they changed the rims out on their car. They got good rims. No money, but I lived in mobile home for my teenage years. You go to some mobile home parks, people had no money, but they had a satellite dish. So you knew where their heart was. This person's heart was in being entertained. You know, they don't have any money, but they got that $100 a month to get satellite. And then you see some people like the Amish I live with, they're putting their money into securing their family's future. They're buying a piece of land with it, saving up money, buying a piece of farmland, because once they own it, they can pass it on to generations. You know, you see them spending on simple things when they travel. They take the bus. They take Greyhound bus.
Yeah.
Now, they don't even want it like a train. They don't fly. It's against their principles, but they'll take a train. But a train might be $500 and a Greyhound costs nothing.
Yeah.
If you want to see the craziest part of America, take a Greyhound bus. For 2 years of my life, when I lived with the Amish, I only took Greyhound. There was a dude who went crazy on a Greyhound bus a few years ago, came on with a knife and chopped somebody's head off.
Jeez.
On the bus while the driver was driving. The dude kept driving.
Whoa.
And he had a psychotic break with reality, thought people were aliens. Yeah, Google it. So the Amish, they know the craziness, but they're like, my money, I need to put it towards securing farmland for my children. So they're out here. So you could tell where somebody's brain is by how they spend their money. It's always been that way. It's been that way. Like you're probably I could look at your bank accounts like, oh, you're spending money traveling here, spending money on Jiu Jitsu. Like, I know your heart's in Jiu Jitsu. That's why women, by the way, want to know the woman's brain. The reason that women want that ring is that's an honest signal. It's like there's an episode on The Office where Michael Scott's getting married and he buys this huge ring and they're like, oh, Michael, how'd you spend so much? He's like, yeah, like they say, 3-year salary. Like, supposed to be 3-month salary. But some men out here been 3-year salary on a ring for a woman. Well, he probably likes her.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It does. I wouldn't do a 3-year salary for a ring. But now I'll tell you something interesting on the flip side. If the woman says, I don't want that, let's get married and put that money into securing a piece of land, that's the woman you want to marry.
Shows where her.
Yeah, so you show with your heart, but then she's like, hey, great idea that you're doing that you want to drop 30 G's. Why don't you put a 30 G's down on a little farm, 2 acres, 3 acres outside the city where it can raise our family? That's the woman to keep. Did you want to, I keep going back to your girlfriend here. Did you want, or you're not engaged yet, are you?
Not yet.
Okay. Would you want a ring or a farm? In Peru or in America? Where would you rather have it? U.S. or?
Maybe Peru, if it's possible.
I've been to Peru.
Absolutely.
Have you been to Peru?
Not yet. We're going to go.
Peru's where, now, Josh here is a vegan, so you should know that potatoes and tomatoes come from Peru.
Peru, exactly. Yeah.
Corn comes from Mexico. Most of the foods we come from the Middle East or North Africa, but not potatoes and tomatoes. So does she cook Peruvian food for you?
Yeah. Yeah, it's actually how we met. I went to a Peruvian restaurant.
So way to a man's heart.
I had some lomo saltado, and I was like, oh, I don't know if I'm in love with my server, the food. It's a lot of love going around.
It was too many
accent.
cognitive biases all at once.
Yeah.
It was you, the food, the convenience, bringing it to him. That's what that old saying that a way to a man is through his heart. There's a lot of truth. Even though I think Napoleon, the general, said an army marches on its stomach. Meaning, if you can't feed your troops, they're going to leave immediately. So
Probably why.
So that's a good. So do you believe in traditional roles, like he makes the money more and you cook more, or do you?
Yeah, I do. We were like a traditional couple for sure, so we have those values.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Because traditional, dating in America is just bonkers, man. You bend over backwards for a date, and it's like you got to fit all this criteria. She doesn't have to fit anything. You're supposed to be chasing, and then she doesn't even want to be a wife or a mother ever. And it's like, as a man, it's like it took me a long time to realize that I wasn't happy with the situation in America. When I moved to Denver and I started like learning more about like Latinas culture, I was like, oh man, I need to learn some Spanish. I picked up a couple lines.
A few words.
That's all you needed.
That's why, they got all these like Rosetta Stone and Duolingo and all that. I'm like, that's not how a man learns a language. I had a friend, he went to Czech Republic, which is, they say, one of the hardest languages to learn. He learned Czech in 1 month. Why? He fell in love with a girl, didn't know English. Better than Duolingo, better than a college course is necessity.
That's immersion, right?
Beauty and necessity. A man starts to become picking up phrases at the speed of light. Yeah, so you learn Spanish. Yeah, a lot of Latinas are really popular. I feel like everyone likes Latinas because black guys like Latinas, white guys love Latinas. I was just in Sweden, Swedish guys like Latina. Yeah. Do Asian guys like Latina? That's the only type I don't know.
They do, but unfortunately, Latinas oftentimes don't fall for our Asian brothers, unfortunately for them.
Is that true? Okay, so if you have a choice, what do you think? So why were you not attracted to Asian men?
I feel like they're just different. Like, they're just, how can I say that? Like, they're just not that expressive or really about that today. And I don't feel.
You were already talking on this subject.
We actually were.
So, but is your mom okay if you come? Your grandma, she still live in Peru.
Yeah.
So if you bring home an all-American Midwest guy, is she kind of go, oh, it's okay, but I wish you were with a guy from Peru?
No, they're fine. Like, they respect my decision and they're always happy for me, but yeah.
It's even better in a way.
Does your family be like, oh, Latina? Because sometimes Midwest families are a little
My family was a little bit
They were a little bossy.
Hey, watch out. She's going to try to get the green card. That's the first thing everybody says. My grandpa was like, he's from Georgia. He's from Macon, Georgia. Boy, why couldn't you just find yourself a regular American blonde girl? And I'm just like, Grandpa, you don't know what these regular American girls are like these days.
Yeah.
They got OnlyFans. They got, it's just not a good mother.
So no, never any OnlyFans? No, you're not only. I tell men there's basically two types of women. There's mother types and mistress types. And you got to know what you want. There's nothing wrong with either one, but the biggest mistake a man with money can do, men marry mistresses. I'm like, bro, are you crazy? Come on. There's horses for courses. That's what one of my first guy I ever met who had over $100 million. His name was Michael Murphy from Ireland. I was still a teenager. He goes, Ty, there's horses for courses. I go, what do you mean? He goes, well, I own a lot of $1 million race horses. And when I put them on the race track to bet money on them, if the track is a long track and they got to run for a long time, I pick a different horse. If it's a quick track, I pick my fastest horses. Mistresses and mothers, if you're looking for something short term, you want tattoos everywhere. That's why men actually like when a guy goes out. It's interesting science on this. We'll show the science on the screen when we replay this. But when a man is not looking for a long-term relationship and looking for a one-night stand, when he goes out to a club here in LA, he specifically looks more for a girl with lots of tattoos, super short skirt, because that's a signal. It's not a guarantee, but it's a signal that she's more likely short-term minded.
Mm-hmm.
You know? And so I one of my first conferences I did, Joel Salatin came. Of course, he's an old farmer. He don't know about Twitter and Tinder and all this. And he was, he don't know about OnlyFans. He married his high school sweetheart. They're still married. And when we were leaving, this is 2015, right after Here My Garage got big. And I'll never forget, we're walking out of the Roosevelt Hotel. And a guy was like you going, man, you don't know how the women are here. I want to have a family. And he said, Joel, what's the secret to finding like a real mother? And Joel said, well, you got to go where the mothers go.
Right.
What he meant is, don't go to the club.
Nightclub.
Don't go.
Yeah.
He's like, go to the library.
Whole Foods.
Go to the library. Exactly.
Yeah.
Go to the farm. Like, you find a woman working on a farm, there's something called sense seeking, like the sixth sense that you have, you know, smell, the sixth sense, you know, if you're psychic. But there's something called a sense-seeking scale in psychology, and some people are very high on the sense-seeking scale. So they constantly need to be gratified, right? So there are people like skydiving, there are people who smoke a lot, generally are higher on the sense-seeking scale. And believe it or not, men kind of know this, and so do women.
Yeah.
And so a lot of men ignore the signals that, no, you're dating someone high on sense-seeking, you're dating someone high on short-term, and that's fine if you want short-term. But if you marry that woman, if 1,000 men, there's always exceptions, but if 1,000 men who want long-term date 1,000 women who show a lot of signs of short-term mindset, those dudes are going to have a nightmare. And society doesn't like to talk about that because society doesn't understand statistics. So whenever I post videos like this, like I post a video that people with a lot of tattoos, especially face tattoos, are much higher in anxiety and mental disorders. And people are like, so just like women who have a ton of plastic surgery, statistically, are much higher in narcissism.
I could totally see that.
So like women are like making their lips huge, doing a lot of plastic surgery. It's now women go, well, I know a girl and she has plastic surgery and she's not a narcissist. But that's not how statistics work. Statistic works on 1,000 women who get triple E silicone boobs versus 1,000 women who don't. You can bet $1 million all day that group is going to be more short-term minded. So one of the things, you know, and I think you see this, is your life is a series of bets that you play. Nobody knows the future. Nobody but God or the universe knows the future. Certainly we don't. Humans are mortal. That's the one defining characteristic of humans. We can't guarantee our future. So you place bets all the time. You placed a bet, okay, I'm working like in a gravel lot, I'm working at a grocery store. I'm going to make a bet that if I learn a cutting edge skill like online marketing, I'm going to devote my time to that I can make more money. And that bet paid off, but it wasn't guaranteed.
No, not at all.
Some people fail.
Yep.
I've got over 40,000 people gone through my Smma program. I've taught more people to launch a marketing agency than anyone in history. I own the trademark for it. You know, I own Smma in the US. And some people fail. But statistically, it's a good bet to make.
For sure.
It's a better bet than a 9-to-5 job because in general, 9-to-5, you're just paid. There's no asymmetrical potential. There's no 90,000. You said you did 90,000 last month.
Yeah.
So you're making good bets. Jiu-Jitsu is a good bet. There's no guarantee that Jiu-Jitsu will actually help your health because some people get hurt the first month.
For sure.
And if they hadn't done Jiu-Jitsu, they wouldn't have, you know, tore their meniscus or whatever. But in general, you take 1,000 people who do Jiu-Jitsu versus 1,000 people who don't. It's pretty much a no-brainer to bet on the 1,000 people do that they're going to have better outcomes in health, in ability to defend themselves, flexibility, all those things. So it's a problem in society that people are so bad at understanding statistics, you know, like you were saying about women. Your grandpa didn't understand. Of course, there's some good women in America, but what you were trying to say, it's called in economics, it's called the principle of thick markets versus thin markets. What you were trying to tell your grandpa from Macon, Georgia, is not there's zero women in America who are born in America who would make a good wife or mother. You were saying that it's a needle in a haystack, and it's a bad bet to bet that you can find the needle in the haystack. It's
Yeah.
a bad bet. You know what I mean? So economists call that thin markets. So you went to the Latino market,
Thick.
which is a thick, literally, also is a double entendre. The Latin market is a thick market, but I wasn't talking about thick booties. Yeah, I'm talking about,
Yeah.
But in general, Latino women would rather have a family
Yeah.
than be an OnlyFans or a stripper for the rest of their life.
The culture's thick, and I think that that's making a big comeback. Like a lot of guys, like they made their money and they realized, like, oh, we don't have to simp over girls. Like we are the prize in a lot of aspects.
Passport bros.
Passport
The
bros.
rise of the passport bro.
Yeah.
But you didn't have to go to that. That's a good hack. Instead of being a passport bro and flying to Peru, just go to a Peruvian restaurant that's authentic.
Exactly.
And you got food. You didn't have to go on an airplane. There you go. How long had you been in America?
Almost 40 years.
Oh, so you'd been a while.
Yeah.
I could tell by your accent. I was like, Colombian? I was off by one country. Colombian and Peruvian have a somewhat similar accent.
I got one line that I just mastered. I didn't know any other Spanish besides this, but I'd hit them with, oh, hablas español? Like I know nothing.
Yeah.
I'm just like, sí, and I'm like, estoy aprendiendo español, pero te quiero conocerte. Tal vez solo en mis sueños si tengo suerte. And then they're just like, whoa.
Heidi, entiendes?
And then I'm like,
My assistant speaks Cuban Spanish. Now, Cuban is fast. Peruvian is kind of medium, right? Yeah, Cubans and ¿qué es más rápido? Cuba or Dominicana? Or Puerto Riqueño? Hablando. Cuba?
it's hard to understand Cuban Spanish.
Yeah, Cuban is, they cut off they're like Danish. It's funny, every part of the world has the same pattern. There's a part, close countries, there's one where they say the whole word. That's Sweden. If you go to Scandinavia. So Swedish people, will say like a street, like Solveigatan. And then Danish people go, Sudret. They cut the whole thing off. Mexicans sing the whole word. Right? So Mexicans are like, ¿Cómo te va? Da, 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 da.
Yeah, the accent.
And in Scandinavia, Norwegians sing the word. They call it like the singing, like they're like, right? But then in Cuban people are just, and Dominican is a funny accent too. No, pero es, como tú puedes hacer,
It's kind of
Dominican.
flow, kind of.
Yeah, like in New York, my friend can do the funniest impersonation of Dominican. But yeah, language. My grandma was a linguist. That's what she was. She studied language. She said, Latin languages have diminutives. Diminutive is like you say chiquitito. Yeah,
Hito.
El chico is like small and chiquitito is like
It's really
small.
small. Yeah.
My grandma
It's
wrote.
cute.
My grandma was super intellectual. Like before she died at 102, she wrote a paper on diminutives in different languages, and that's like Russians. Russians don't have articles, so it drives me nuts with my Russian friends. I'm like, bro, you've been in fucking America for 20 years. You got to know the word the. It was like get in cod.
Yeah.
I'm like, that sounds so bad. Just say the. Like, so but it's hard because people translate out of their own language. My friend from Argentina, he's hilarious. He's a PhD, he's a smart guy. He says the wackiest things. He'll be like, when he came over to visit the other day, he's like, yeah, I'm sorry I'm late. The drive over here, the car ate another car. I'm like, what? And that's a car crash.
Yeah.
How do you say in Peruvian when cars crash? Se comió? No.
When they crash,
Yeah, crash.
choke.
Choque. Yeah, in Argentinian they say, ¿Tú dices se comió? Like,
Comió, like eat.
yeah. They'll say like the car ate the other car. Or he says, this is interesting. In Spanish, you say get on the car. That sounds weird to an American. He'd always be like, Ty, get on the car. I'm like, you want me on the top? Like, I'm like, get in. He's like, no, it doesn't make sense that you get in. He's like, Ty, getting in means you get to him like in the engine or like in the fuel tank. He's like, you're on the car. Like, here's the metal part. I said, yeah, he would argue with me about, I'm like, dude, I know one thing I know is how to speak the language. And he'd sit there, tell me he goes, deer. That's another one, you know, like the animal. He's like, yeah, 12 deers came by. Deer. Like, it's deer. He's like, no, it's plural. Deer. So I'm like, that's not how English works, man. Language is tough.
It's cool, like, learning with her. And, like, we sometimes, like, we just have to, like, take a second and be like, wait, what did you mean? What did you hear? Because it's just, like, it's so easy to just not quite, you know. It's cool that your grandma lived to be 102 and she was a linguist. I always wondered where you got so interested in all these different cultures and stuff.
Yeah, probably my grandpa and grandma. Yeah, they were scientists. You know, my grandpa wasn't so much into humans. He was a marine biologist, zoology, and then he became an astrophysicist after he was about 40.
Your dad's dad?
My mom's
Your mom's side.
My dad's dad my dad was, like I said, a street kid from Harlem, New York, in the rough part, like gangs in New York, right after that time.
Harlem was bad.
Yeah, Harlem was like, he was living in Harlem in the 50s, man. My dad told me like 3 stories. One of the stories, he said, Ty, one time I was in a diner. This is once, my dad made money for a while. Not legally, that's why he went to prison, but, you know, they were selling a lot of drugs. And he said, one time I was on a double date with my best friend, and we were in a diner in Harlem, and I'm sitting there, and there was a girl here. The 2 girls sat across the booth, and there was my dad's best friend here, and 2 guys walked in with a shotgun, and he said they blew his friend's brains all over him. And he's like, back then in New York, nobody called anybody because the police used to be so corrupt. I mean, there's still corrupt police, but like there's if you ever seen the movie Serpento or whatever it is, the movie with De Pacino. Yeah, it's all about how corrupt the police. But my dad's like, dude, I was shaking for 3 days, man. And he's like, nobody cared back then. He's like, that dude's in that mask on. Wow. They didn't run out. They just walked. By the way, there's some parallels to how New York is right now, by the way.
For sure.
I just saw the mayor of New York got indicted. Who knows what's going on. New York's been a crazy, but Serpico, that's what it's called. That's a good movie if you haven't seen it. But yeah, so my dad's side is a street side. His dad was a sailor, and before that, and after that, worked in the subway.
Your dad's still around?
No, he died too. Yeah, my mom's still around. My grandma and grandpa died, but yeah.
Yeah, could I ask you one more question?
Sure.
Yeah, man. So, okay, $27 course. We've done a few million in sales. I'm working with Andy Elliott's top guys. I got to show you roll. We crush it for local businesses. We're growing school communities. The agency model, eventually you're selling time for money.
Yes.
Where would you say, I'm similar to you. I've taken a lot of your quizzes.
Yeah.
Very risk. I love taking risks. Yeah. Very dopamine.
Yep. What's next?
What would you say as like a mentor, as a coach?
Well, you got 2 choices. One, decide maybe enough is enough. If you know how to make $50,000 a month, move to Peru, move to Brazil, be set for life. For sure. I'm telling you that I would never fault a man for going, I don't need to make $1 million a month. Like, why? If you move to Brazil and you're making 20 G's a month, you're done. You're going to have the greatest. It's basically Peru, Brazil is about an 8X. So just take, if you make 10 grand, it's like the equivalent of making 80 grand. It's literally that much. Yeah. So that's path 1. Go enjoy life. You know, go live, not so much in the U.S. Second is, if you want to stay in America and grind it out, you're going to need to build a product. So I've got some products I'm rolling out in the food space, like just a good product, because products, if they take off, whether it's clothing line, whether it's a supplement. I know there's a dude in Germany who rolled out a supplement company a year ago. He's doing $1 billion. $1 billion.
From supplements.
With supplements.
And we probably
brand new business. Well, people in Germany know them, but Americans haven't. So once it scales and it's a repeat product, let's say you're selling protein powder and people like it, well, they run out of the powder.
Yeah.
And they buy it again. And so you're not trading time for money. So I always say you start with a service-based business. SMMA is the best. I'm going to put a link. I'll tell you on your podcast, put a little 9.0 link. So service-based business is best. The best one I know for anybody that works and been working for now 9 years is marketing agency, but do it the new way that I'm talking about. Second, you build a product-based business. Third is you buy and sell companies. You buy and sell other people's assets. That's like the 3 levels of wealth. Elon Musk bought Tesla. He bought his way into PayPal. He bought Twitter. Mark Zuckerberg bought Instagram. Warren Buffett bought 100 companies. That's level 3, but you don't necessarily have to go to level 3. Like I said, you can stay at level 1 and just live in Thailand.
Yeah. Train
Service-based business, you work 2 hours a day. First off, working too little will make you bored. Yeah. So you don't, most men, I really believe like what Freud said, which was like men find meaning through work. It's okay. Like you can be a workaholic, but you can also be a lazy son of a bitch too. So you go to Brazil, you go to Thailand, you go to Peru, you go to Mexico, you work 3 hours a day, you make 10 to 20,000. And then you go to Philippines,
Jiu-Jitsu world champion.
Jiu-Jitsu, you learn it, you write your book, you have your kids, you enjoy life, you know.
We're set. Well, look at the product too. Look at Stanley. You seen their year over year, they're with the green mug. They're like, you know, they're barely,
I'm saying,
barely doing 9 figures. Then they go 370 million when they roll out. And now they're like, dude, Stanley's like, the company that you've just seen, like that product space. So I see what you're saying.
Roll out your product. You can also roll out a product from another place. Just standard of living. Pick a place where it makes sense. My man.
Much love, man.
Yeah, thank you.
So cool.
Yeah.
So sick.